Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about a storyteller becomes a published author. Yes, how inspiring this conversation is to all of those individuals who wonder, do I have it in me? Yes, you do. So, with that being said, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective. You could be doing anything right now, but you are with me and I truly thank you for this moment. So let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, a storyteller becomes a published author, what does that make you think about?
It makes me think about dreams coming true. I've been writing for over 35 years, and I kind of dreamed about becoming an author as early as think I was 16 the first time I thought about it. And I thought, nah, it's never going to happen. And then I made it happen. So that's what I think of. I think of dreams coming true.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you made it happen. You know what I mean? There could have been so many naysayers of like, Jennifer, you becoming an author? Why? You know what I mean? So many scenarios that could have ran through your mind, but you made it happen, especially because you were so young when you even first thought this. I mean, so I have to ask you, how did you overcome the obstacles? Or was there any obstacles in your way?
Well, I had very low self-esteem. I was very judgmental about my work. My family wasn't very supportive on, my creative arts and my creative outlet and stuff. But I kept writing for myself because I had stories that needed to be told. And then in 2019, I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And to that point, I had never shared anything. And I thought, I'm going to get brave. I'm going to share because if I don't, then I'll never know. And so I had finished the first book in my current series with an editor. I'd finished that, so I was sharing that with an editor, and I was keeping in mind like the worst they can say is it sucks, and they came back and they said this doesn't suck, you should publish. So that was the encouragement that I needed to take that first step.
Oh, I love that. And I think you're right. Many people don't realize how just that low self-esteem can keep you away from reaching your dreams. And then
Mm.
having all these people around you that's supposed to love you and support you and help you nourish you and flourish you to be something greater, how they can also be an obstacle where they will not believe in your dreams. And the fact that you're diagnosed with autism and ADHD, it just proves that anything's possible. You know, I just got my son evaluated for autism and they actually did diagnose him with autism. And when I told my dad, he was just like, "No, no, don't let him diagnose him. Don't let him put that label on him." And I was just like, "Wait, it's not a taboo. It's not bad. It's going to be something that'll help him. That watch when he's older, that's going to be his superpower. That's going to be his ability to achieve things that the common man can't achieve on his own." And people don't realize like that is something that it's a gift because you see the world in a different way. You interpret it in a different manner and you manage life in a different way where you are able to create worlds, you know what I mean? Create life in your books and create something that so a lot of people won't even step into, you know what I mean? Won't even allow themselves to explore in the what ifs in that manner. So truly, I appreciate you doing this and keep going forward because oh my goodness, you have so many books out
Yeah,
there.
yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like with each book that you've written, was there a doubt that you had to overcome with each book?
Oh, absolutely. With like each editing process, even the rough draft, it's really difficult sometimes for me to step out of my head and say, no, I'm just writing this for myself. Because I've been nitpicked to death by my, haters and people that just didn't support me and stuff. So I internalize that, as I think we all do when we hear that often enough. So it's every single step of the process is difficult, but I'm starting to come into my own comfort, my own confidence, and people are saying that they love my books, which is huge for an author.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's such a rewarding feeling when you get people who not only resonate with it, but actually see your vision and appreciate what you done and really acknowledge the efforts that went into it. And I love the fact that you go by, I'm writing for myself. You know what I mean? Because all you have is yourself. So why not just write for yourself and allow it
Mhm.
to become whatever that it is because it's coming from you. So it's like for somebody out there who's have that doubt of if this is a path that they were thinking about but were unsure, what would you tell them?
You'll never know unless you try.
Mm,
There's a lot of people out there that are in the same boat where they just don't know. They don't have that confidence. They don't have that, like, let's try this. Maybe they need that push. You're not going to find somebody, very seldom are you going to find somebody who's going to push you. You have to push yourself. And if you don't step out there, you'll never know what you can do.
yeah, you really will never know until you actually just do it. I think that's so beautiful because they get so stuck in their minds where they won't even achieve anything because they're frozen on the fence of the unknown and not realizing like you have to choose a side of
Yeah.
doing it or don't do it. But thinking about it isn't going to do anything because then you're going to fall into the not doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just like do you have a plan of how many books you want to actually publish before the ends of your days?
Not a number that I've set in my head. I will write until I'm done.
No.
Just like somebody asked me is like, "Oh, do you plan how long your books are going to be?" Because sometimes my books are, over the 110,000 word mark. And I said, "No, I just write until the story is done, and when it's done, I'll know, and then we can tear it apart during editing."
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I love that because that's exactly where I'm at now with my novel that I'm working on. It's like I'm literally just writing until it finally reaches its endpoint and then it's like, okay, well it's done. And when the editor decides to skim it out and take out whatever the nonsense that doesn't need to be there to make it better and to perfect it and clean it up, then it's like, okay, then that would be the final number. But I think
Mhm.
when people just focus on the word count, like, oh, I want a novel, so I need at least make 50,000 words. And it's like, well, technically, you need a book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You need an actual book that makes sense, that actually like makes you feel something, that makes you like interact in a way, you know what I mean? That goes you through the emotions of the highs and lows. You need to put your heart out, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of the times people get stuck with the logistics and the science of things that they don't actually allow themselves to actually just write. Writing is simple. It's like thinking.
Yeah.
It's so simple that people just don't even, oh, they don't, they bypass it because they feel like it's so simple, but it's like, no, it
Yes.
all works in together. So it's like, what are some misconceptions when it comes to achieving your dreams?
I thought it would be like, so I went the indie publish route. And I thought that traditional publish route would be easier. But what I didn't realize was you still have to market yourself. You still have to do all the footwork and all the front work, even if you're traditionally published, because you can't count on somebody else to do that for you. Marketing is a terrifying word. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means. I'm a mom. I make meals and lunches and trying to make creative bento boxes every day and stuff. I don't know what marketing means. So I switched the word around because that's how my brain works. And I turned it into let's tell the world we exist or telling the world we exist. And it puts me into the frame of mind that I need to be in.
Oh, I love that. I love the way that you switched it up because it makes it so much more easier. Because when you think of marketing, you think of numbers, you think of just all of these logistic things where it's just like, excuse me, it can get overwhelming. You know what I mean? Especially the way that your mind works. And I feel with what you're saying because I feel like my mind works in a certain way where I have to reword things for to allow
Mhm.
myself to actually step into it because if not it'll just it'll choke me up because when I did my podcast it was overwhelming to think like oh possibly millions of people can listen in and that means
Mhm.
millions of people can judge me but then I'm like I'm not doing it for the millions. I'm doing it for the one. You know what I mean? I'm doing it for that one single person that may be listening and it'll help them think differently, move differently, interact with the world differently, and see the world differently. That one
Mhm.
person will make a difference. So it's just like changing it from millions to one makes it so
Mhm.
different because now everything that I do, I'm only looking for that one. When I have speaking events, I'm only looking for that one person.
Yes.
When I write my book, I'm like I'm only looking for that one person because if I can save one single soul out there with what I'm doing on my platform, then it'll change their life. Then in retrospect, it'll change everyone else's lives that affects their lives. You know what I mean? And it's like it's such a real thing because I'm a mom. I know what you mean. Like I don't know all these little things. Like I'm worried about making sure that my kid doesn't get sick. And if he's sick, like how do I help him and make sure that he's
Yeah.
fed and he doesn't kill himself? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all these little things because I mean, that's what happens when we're moms. We have all these other things in our mind that makes it so real. And I also love the fact that you went the indie route because I went the indie route as well. And for the ones who don't know what indie route means, that means like the independent self-publishing, you know what I mean, that form because it's real. It's a real thing. And especially with those traditional publishers, sometimes you need a PR person and you need to already have a grand following and you need to be known already. And it's like I'm just, yeah, I'm just a mom. I'm just a human being. I'm just trying to just make people know. So I think that's very real that many people can just relate to and realize like you don't have to be a celebrity. You just have to be
Mhm.
somebody that's worth sharing your story with the world and hoping that it'll help impact them. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really good way to put it. So I have to ask you, have you ever read a book that you thought was bad?
Oh, yes. And I mean, like, I have a bookcase now. I didn't read a lot because I couldn't find anything that sparked joy. That's why I started writing. And now people are recommending books to me, but if I read them and I don't like them, like whether it's the writing, usually I can get past the writing, but if the story is just, I just don't like this story, and it has to be a good reason, because if it's just a genre I don't like, then, if it's a good book, I'm still going to give it a good rating. But if it's a book where the plot is all over the place, the characters are just cardboard cutouts of each other, the dialogue does not sound natural or it's forced, and there's lots of things that are going on, these creative elements or plot elements and stuff, it does not stay on my bookcase. Um, and I know there's a lot of haters out there, so I do try to find something positive in everything. If I'm reviewing something, I do try to find something positive that is in each story. Even if it's a bad book, there's something positive there. But then also to give them advice on how to change it, because that advice, I think, is sometimes hard to receive, but it's important. I've had reviews where my they said they didn't like my book because it was too action packed, or they thought my character was a loser, and I'm like, that's not something that I can change, so that's not helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I love the fact that you give the advice back because that constructive criticism, goodness, my words are tongue-tied today. That constructive criticism is so real because it's not about diminishing the author and their work. It's about
Mhm.
assisting, knowing that you have talent, but you just need to get it together, restructure, reframe, reanalyze what your goal is. Because, well, for me, I hate books that have bad endings. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I hate books where they either leave you where it's just like, really? This is where we ended up? Like,
Yeah.
all of this we went through, you put me on this emotional roller coaster for this ending. Like I would get so upset when it comes to the ending. Like for me, I feel like the ending has to be very impactful. It has to like leave me either thinking or wanting more, or just something where it's just like it concludes everything that makes it make sense. And I agree, sometimes the writing I can get over, the little misspells and the little things here and there, no problem, I can bypass. But it's that dialogue, most definitely. If the characters don't make sense, if you confuse the characters from one to the other, like you have to be consistent with the characters. And I think that's one thing that I'm making sure of when I'm writing my novels is that I have like a piece of paper with my outline and I'm constantly revising it, constantly making notes to it just because it's like I want to make sure that it's up to date from the first chapter to the last chapter. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that the characters have the same emotions or they get more intense or they reveal their true colors or something that makes it more engaging. And I think that's really what makes a good story is when you're able to make the characters relatable. You know what I mean? Even if it's a bad guy, you know what I mean? Like you can like a bad guy, you know what I mean? You can relate to a bad guy sometimes. I mean, look at it now. People agree with the Joker. You know what I mean? People agree with all of these bad guys from all of these places. So it's so interesting that people can have this perspective when it comes to a book being good or bad. But you're right, it's not about just hating a book just because, oh, I don't like the author. No, like read, you know what I mean? Enjoy it. To figure out you might actually enjoy that author's work. You never even gave them the chance. So I gotta ask you, what are some pros or cons when it comes to writing?
Oh, it takes a long time. That would be a definite con. It
It
can
does.
take ages. The rough draft, you can finish a rough draft. For me, it's usually about 2 to 4 months to finish a rough draft, but the editing and the polishing and then more editing and then the beta reading and the proofreading and then back to editing can take a lot, like at least 3 times that sometimes.
Oh yeah,
The,
absolutely.
the con, that so that would be the con. The pros is for me it's a form of therapy. It allows me to escape the chaos of my life. I can delve into these world in my brain. I can live it through my characters. And I mean, that's what really got me into writing was I needed that outlet. I needed to understand the world. I was going through a really tough time in my life and I needed to understand things. And I started writing and living vicariously through my characters and having them understand things for me,
Mhm.
living them out, such.
Yeah, I love that because you can make your own worlds, you know what I mean? You can interpret the world in a way that it's literally your world when you write it out, and it is a form of therapy. Like I have made peace with people that I thought that I never would have made peace with, but because I put them in my book and I made it where I can understand them and the way that they move, it's just like, huh, okay. Well, now you die. No. You know what I mean? You can kill them off in your book and then it's okay, you know? But it's really interesting because people don't realize that writing is a form of therapy and there's really nothing wrong you can have in your writing as long as it comes from you directly. Um, and I think that is something that people really don't consider when it comes to writing. So what else do you think that people don't consider when it comes to writing?
Oh, I guess that, it's relaxing for me. For me, it helped me to understand the world because growing up with autism, I didn't know I had autism and I was really trying to figure out the world. So it allowed me to, when I'm getting bullied in school, well, I'd write it out in my book, like, well, what would my characters do in those situations? And it allowed me to resolve those things, even if I never resolved them in the real world. It allowed me to have some form of resolution.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was a huge thing. It is fun to write, you can dream.
I love that. You can dream. Oh, how simple those words are, but how much of an impact that can really lead to somebody to remember to dream again. People have lost that hope. People have lost that sense of wonder. People have lost that yearning to dream because they have gone into distress, to despair, and they're just giving up on life and on people. And it's like, don't give up. Don't give up on the world. Don't give up on yourself, and don't give up on what can come from you specifically. And I love that the fact that you are able to use your your autism as a form of guidance to help you when you're writing. And you said it took you around like 2 to 3 months to write your first draft. I mean, how do you handle that? I mean, how do you really find the time with juggling everything that you're going through in your personal life to actually have time to actually sit down and write?
Well, like you'd slot out time in your daily life for self-care. Writing is my self-care. When my kids are like, I homeschool my kids for the first 4 years, so it was difficult. So I couldn't write unless my husband was home or they were napping. Now that they're in school, I usually write during the day when they're in school, and then when they're home, I try to be present for them.
Oh, I love that. That's smart though. Yeah. Because I mean, when you're homeschooling them, it's kind of hard to juggle that because it's about like, okay, making sure the kids got their education, got their structure, get their routine in, and it really consumes your time in your day. But once you're in their once they are actually in a physical school, it gives you that time of silence. Oh, do you like silence? Do you prefer to write in silence or do you prefer to have like a noise or music in the background?
Yeah, I usually like background noise. So I've got Alexa that play for me. Or I'll just turn on YouTube and or TV and just have some random thing playing in the background. I'm not really listening to. I guess that's maybe because I'm a mom, so it's very seldom that I'm ever writing in silence. So we need that like little bit of background distraction just to so we don't feel like we're caught in a cocoon.
Really, I love silence when it comes to my writing. When I'm in my writing mode, I have it completely. I close the door. I leave my phone outside of my office. My kids are downstairs. Those noises downstairs don't really bother me, but I want in my office it has to be completely silence because that's where I'm able to listen. And when I say listen, I mean like listen to the characters. You know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes the characters, depending on what I'm writing, I can actually hear what they want me to say or hear what's going on in the scene of what I'm writing. You know what I mean? Like in my mind, it's like a projector and I can see everything that's happening and it's like I have to like write it down, like everything that I see, everything that I hear, everything that I visualize just so that I can get it all in there. So
Yes.
it's funny how we have a little bit of a different writing style. So just like what is your real writing style then? I mean, I know you said you like to have the noise in the background, but how do you really write?
Um, it's I see it as a movie in my head,
Yeah.
and I basically write down what I see. So it's like you're talking about the projector. And I think I got used to having background noise because when I'm stuck for something, um, I will put on my headphones and I will go walking and I will let the video play out in my head because I've always got like sound, a background sound, right?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I also find that if I'm writing certain scenes, I have to be in the mood for those scenes. So if I'm writing something that's very heartfelt, I can't be like really anxious. I have to clean the house and stuff. So I do have to kind of, if there's a big mess and stuff. For me, it's more visual than auditory. If I'm, really anxious and I have to write a really excited scene, I have to get myself like in a more of an anxious type mood. So then, I kind of play with my environment because it influences my emotions.
Oh, I love that. That's so real because for me, I have to pay attention to my emotions too when it comes to my writing. Because if I'm in a sad mood or I'm depressed at the moment and I start writing, my mistake is that I will start changing the characters depending on my
Mm.
mood. So just like I realize that I have to, depending on the scene, I literally have to do what you said, get my mind mentally ready for that scene so that I'm not changing the whole entire outcome of where it's going. Because
Yeah.
one time I did that and my character was like, no, this is not how I am. Like, no, this is not where we're going. And I was just like, oh, all right. So then I had to delete it and then just put it down and walk away because it's like, just because I have the time to write doesn't mean it's a good time to actually write because it's
Exactly.
not where I want it to go. So, yeah, I think paying attention to that is truly important because then you really have an impactful story and the characters stay aligned and stay consistent. You know what I mean? Because you want that consistency. So it kind of makes sense when you read certain books and you see it fluctuate all over. It's like, huh, it makes me wonder if the author was going through their motions and then didn't check themselves before writing because we have to check ourselves, you know what I mean? We have to really do our self-evaluation before we do this. And I also want to backtrack and say thank you for admitting the fact that, you know what I mean, this is a form of self-care. You know what I mean? Like the way that you take care of yourself, this is part of it because it is part of your therapy. It is a part of your healing process of whatever that you may be going through. And I don't think a lot of people realize like this can be a form of self-care. You know what I mean? You can write to a point where it can heal you from the inside out, where once you're done writing, you're in a better mood, you're in a better state of mind going forward. So yes, I think it's so, so valuable. And time is catching up to us, and I'm always sad about this, the end of the times, because I truly do love having you on my show, Jennifer, and just thinking about
Um,
this great concept. But what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
you know, if you don't try, you never will,
Mm,
and you'll never know what you can accomplish. If I
ex-
can follow my dreams, so can you. It doesn't take a degree or any sort of education. Just somebody with the determination to tell the world they exist.
exactly. Oh, so impactful. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your life, sharing your emotions with me and your perspective. I truly value this time with you. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, because how could you not after this conversation, right? Go check out Jennifer. I have access to her website that has access to all the great content that she has to offer the world because she has so much great content, so many lovely books that will keep you all thinking because that's the point. So check out the description, click on the link if you're listening in audio, or if you're on YouTube, or if you're on my website listening. All these great ways just so that you can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.